No stairway. Denied.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is hard to believe, John, that we're into the 20s of July, July 21st. Do I got that date right?
You do, and all the little chitlins around town will be starting school in like a month.
God, back in the day, they'd be starting school next week until they moved it back a little bit. God, you know what? When you were a Hazelwood guy, okay, what was the first day of school for you always?
The day after Labor Day.
Exactly.
Because you would sit in your living room. I might be projecting here, Brad. You'd sit in your living room and you would watch the Jerry Lewis Labor Day Telethon, and you would lament the fact that the next day you had to go to school. But Jerry would come on and make you laugh and do a wacky voice and say, "Hey, lady," and everything was fine.
And then he would sing, "You'll never be alone," or walk, "You'll never walk alone," whatever. And then you knew it was time for school, right? And that was depressing. Okay, that is John Combest, Combest. I spell his name because the fact you need to type that into your computer, your laptop, your a smartphone, your iPad, whatever you have, your tablet, Combest, put a John in front of it, a .com on the rear, and you got johncombest.com. Every single day of his life for 23 plus years, he's put together this extensive list of all the important stuff you should know in the state of Missouri. It's like the Drudge Report for Missouri only, except John has not sold out like Matt Drudge, and it's now being run by a bunch of kooks who hate Trump, but that's a whole other story. Okay, we bring in this guy right here. We dust him off because we have to pull him out of the crypt. What's your name, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And we start with?
In third place,
Brad, I just love the fact that you use the sentence, "put a .com on the rear." That sounds like something you would tell your favorite tattoo artist. Story from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch over the weekend. Jack Suntrup reports, Kentucky governor to headline Missouri Democrats' annual Truman dinner. Brad, every year Democrats get together. It used to be called the Jefferson-Jackson dinner. But I don't know if you knew this. Jefferson and Jackson, they had a little bit of interaction with slaves, Brad. So Democrats said, hey, we can't name it after them anymore. Let's name it after favorite son, Harry Truman. That was an easy decision. So Dems get together every fall. They have a big fundraiser. This one is going to be obviously downtown St. Louis at the Grand Hall on Choteau in September. And the special guest, and the reason why this is newsworthy, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. Have you heard of him, Brad?
I have.
Yeah, if you look at him, you would think that, hey, we're going to stereotype. He is a white male in a red state. He's surely not a Democrat, right? And he surely couldn't win, but he won the red state of Kentucky, Brad. He was first elected governor in 2019, and then he won re-election in 2023. So he is coming. He's going to headline the event. You know, Democrats get together every year and they make plans and they make proclamations about how they're going to start picking up seats or winning elections. 2024 was tough for them. So we'll see if Andy Beshear pumps any wind and money into their sails.
Is that the end of number one?
Well, we can certainly move on, Brad.
Number three.
The curious thing about Andy Beshear is because he's not a typical Democrat, you would consider him to be a potential presidential candidate in 2028. In fact, Jack Suntrup announces in this piece that Beshear was headed to South Carolina. That's a really early state that's important for Democrats, high black population, particularly in the Democratic primary. He was there over the weekend, I guess. Beshear's only 47, and he has confirmed that he is considering a presidential run. Brad, here's my fantasy about the Truman dinner. Are you ready to hear a fantasy on a Monday morning?
John, I'm ready to hear a fantasy, especially on Friday, Saturday nights, but Monday morning will do.
So, Missouri Democrats have a spokeswoman, a communications director, and a strategist named Chelsea Rodriguez. She's really good. Like, if you follow her on social media, she's really clever. She's very insightful. I first noticed her posts back during the Democratic primary for St. Louis mayor because she had retweeted something from Tashara, and then she retweeted something from Kara Spencer, if I recall correctly. And a bunch of awfuls got mad at her, affluent white female liberals. There's a bunch of cliquish types in like Tower Grove South that if you're not part of their awful clique and you don't march in lockstep with them, they get real mad. So they got real mad at her and were like, hey, why are you retweeting Kara Spencer? Why are you taking sides? And if I recall correctly, to paraphrase, Chelsea's response was, I retweeted both major candidates, and this is the reason why Democrats lose elections, because we're nitpicking about retweets. Chelsea was like, I'm out here trying to build a statewide organization, and you guys are in your little clique arguing about retweets. So anyway, here's my fantasy of what should happen, Brett. Andy Beshear is going to come to Missouri, and he and his team are going to have a lot of interaction with Chelsea. They're going to see how good she is. They're going to hire her away this winter, maybe in the spring, and she's going to be like, no, I got to stay through the cycle. And they're going to be like, don't you want to come work on a presidential campaign? Chelsea could go anywhere and work for anybody. By the way, Brad, I don't know her, have never met her, will never meet her. Two people who I know really like her, speak very highly of her. So here's my fantasy, Brad. This Andy guy comes to town in the fall. He and his team see how good this Missouri Democrats strategist, spokeswoman, communications director is. They hire her away. And Missouri Democrats, led by Russ Carnahan, get somebody to take her place who was like whoever did it before, whose name I don't even know, who will just post a bunch of bland milquetoast wallpaper, lowest common denominator stuff that nobody cares about. And then Democrats will have a pretty bland message going into 2026. Meanwhile, Chelsea could follow in the footsteps of another wonderful woman named Lis Smith, who was not from Missouri, came to Missouri, worked for Claire, then went to Kentucky to work for elected officials, then went on to have a high-profile presidential caliber communications and strategy resume, Brad. So that's my fantasy about what's going to happen this fall. Will it happen? Maybe not. But as a right-wing Republican, I want this Chelsea woman gone.
Hold on, my phone's ringing. Hello? Hi, Chelsea. Yeah, hey, John, Chelsea wants to know if you want to have lunch with her today?
Absolutely not.
Oh, he says no. Okay. Try again next week. Okay. I can't believe you turned
Brad,
her down.
let's do us a favor and don't look her up on social media or else you'll follow her and you'll tweet at her or you'll respond to her tweets and it'll just be super annoying.
You know what, John? You won't know me.
Oh, no.
Because
What?
you don't follow me anymore, so you don't know what I do.
No, I did follow you. You were on pretty good behavior. You were on probation for 6 weeks, and then I followed you again, and now you unfortunately occasionally respond to tweets that people tweet at me. So anyway, you know what else is unfortunate? The subject of story number 2.
I don't think I've responded to anything that anybody's tweeted to you lately.
Yeah, you did. Somebody, well, anyway, we'll get into that later.
Okay.
Up a notch to number 2.
OMG, they shut down. I'm finna cry. No, I'm not just reading Brad Hildebrand's diary from the day that Grandpa Pigeons closed in St. Louis. I'm reading a story from Fox 2 News. Popular smoke shop raided, closed. Sister location defies regs. This is brought to us by the great reporter at Fox 2 News, Chris Hayes. To give credit where it's due, Brad, I would not have seen this post if it wasn't for Jake Croson, the editor of the Missouri Times, who tweeted it over the weekend. Bad news, Brad. Regulators have cracked down. I should say city authorities have cracked down on a THC/cannabis store in St. Louis City on Hampton Road. A man walking by said it looked a little bit sketchy. He said he noticed it was not listed as a dispensary and didn't seem to follow the same rules as most TLC shops. So the cops came in, Brad, and said, you just got shut down. Fox 2 learns that the name of the store, Exotic Smokes 2, is not even licensed by the Missouri Division of Cannabis Regulation. But good news for you, Brad. I know you're sad about the Hampton Avenue closing, but if you drive 14 miles north You cannot miss the second Exotic Smokes location on St. Charles Rock Road. You know that area well, Brad. It says they're not only open, but they're available 24/7 with a drive-through. Now, the Breckenridge Hills Police Department captain says he set up a couple different buys with an informant, and he did 2 separate purchases. He also sent a 17-year-old in to buy some drug paraphernalia, and the kid was able to buy drug paraphernalia. So Mr. Breckenridge Hills police guy, he's going to see if the city can revoke their business license. But otherwise, Brad, the State Division of Cannabis Regulation hasn't caught up to these guys yet. Now, jokes and punchlines aside, when we talk about the fact that there's recreational cannabis in the state of Missouri, you and I have talked a lot about it's kind of the Wild West, right? There's all these confusing regulations. It would appear, Brad, that the Division of Cannabis Regulation doesn't have the manpower or woman power to just drive up and down streets and see who's selling cannabis. You see what I'm saying?
John, there's an interesting story on westplexnews.com, which is from Missouri Independent, which talks about the fact that, 16,000 marijuana workers in the state of Missouri, they're actually working at marijuana dispensaries who are required to have fingerprint examinations. They've only gotten through half of them. I mean, don't you?
Yeah. Rebecca Rivas had that up. She posted it this morning, Brad.
Isn't that sort of interesting that here's the interesting thing. Do you think that happens in the casino industry? Do you think there's
Absolutely not.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. The exact same thing. Because you have to be vetted by the state. I think the same thing with fingerprints and the whole bit. You have to be vetted by the state before you can become a casino. I think you actually get don't you actually get like a license to be like a casino worker? Isn't that the way it works? Something like that? I believe that.
I think so. And then I think you have to go down to Ballpark Village and you have to be part of the volunteer team that finds problems with the Cardinal Stadium, so that you could put it in the next stadium funding bill. I think they're all tied in together, Brad.
That's what. So you know what? I hope the hemp people get this IP on the ballot, and I hope they blow the industry wide open. I just hope so, because you know why?
Wouldn't it be complete? Sorry to interrupt, Brad, but wouldn't it be complete chaos? Like, I think that's what you and I are both rooting for. Like, it would be complete chaos, because then it would be like the so-called marijuana cartel would be like, what are we doing? Who are these hemp guys?
Right. But see, I'm all about business disruption, the whole idea behind this. And let's disrupt this industry. If you can buy grass, why can't you buy hemp? You know what I mean? It's like...
Brad, I think you're showing your age when you say grass.
Well, John, years.
He smoked a little grass, man.
So what would be the proper term nowadays? You say, give me, I don't want to sound like an old guy, which I am, but what would be the proper term?
I think you would either call it Doja. I think the default is just weed. I think if you wanted to be like a Gen X hipster, you would probably call it pot, because that has strong 1980s connotations. I think most people just revert to weed.
How about devil's lettuce? Can I use that?
Yeah, devil's lettuce is good if you want to go back to a boomer term, Brad.
Okay. Ready for number one?
We sure are.
The number one.
I hope you're able to breathe a sigh of relief, Brad, when you read some of the news stories over the weekend about Corporation for Public Broadcasting and NPR cuts. I hope you saw over the weekend a piece from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch that was authored by none other than Jack Suntrup. And Jack let us know that neither KETC, Channel 9, nor St. Louis Public Radio will be laying anyone off due to these devastating and drastic cuts. They're going to result in 0 staff layoffs, Brad. That's pretty good news, right?
John, you're stealing my thunder from my number one.
Oh, Brad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I guess I should have known that you would want to talk about NPR. Without ruining Brad's top 3, which folks can hear in the next block, B block, do you have any commentary on the fact that these crippling cuts will amazingly lead to no layoffs?
John, I'm going to defer my comments into B Block because what we're going to do is for the first time, and by the way, you've lost count. I've done this so many times now. You've lost count of how many B Blocks I've done with Brad's top three.
I think you're already almost up to a month, Brad. I think you've almost kept us going for a month.
I think today will be number 22, if I'm not mistaken. So
pretty awesome. There we go. Jack Clark's number right there.
Right. Okay. So do you want to move on, or do you want to belabor this point a little bit more?
No, let's not. Let's save it for B Block, Brad, because I'm sure you have some commentary here. I would also point people to a story from Real Clear Politics. They do an amalgamation, kind of. They collect stuff. Senator Eric Schmidt posted an Instagram reel, which I'm guessing his team probably posted on Facebook and other places, where he went through the unhinged tweets from the who's the gal that runs NPR? Do you know her name?
The lady from the national lady.
Yeah, the big liberal lady.
I believe her name is Maher, Maher.
You're right, it is Maher, yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, is it Catherine Maher?
I believe so, yes.
It might be, yeah. Anyway, Senator Schmidt read some of her most unhinged, and he called them deranged tweets, and it was just hilarious. And I don't know if it was intentional or not, but as he began the clip, he put his glasses on, and it was just very professorial. And it was just fantastic. Again, Brad, as you point out, anyone who thinks that folks that run NPR are not wildly liberal is willfully lying to themselves.
There was a report over the weekend. I read a couple different places that talked about the fact that somebody, it's like, what was the guy's name? Yuri Berliner. What was that his name? Yuri Berliner?
Yeah.
Right. He's the guy that used to work for NPR, and he did a survey of all the people in NPR, and I think he came out with everybody in the news department in the national headquarters there in D.C. There was I think one pseudo-Republican, and everybody else was firmly Democrat.
And 87 Democrat. Now,
right.
Brad, we did get real quickly. We did get and I'm going to remove all identifying information here. Someone who is pro public radio pointed out to me that in Washington, D.C., let's say you had a bunch of reporters that actually lived in D.C. and not Virginia or Maryland, because there really is no Republican Party there. And if I understand correctly, they have party registration. It would make more sense for folks to register as a Democrat in Washington, D.C. than register as a Republican. So you would have a distinct advantage if you were trying to prove that most reporters in D.C. were Democrats, because it's kind of like living in St. Louis City. There's no real organized Republican Party in D.C. This point, which I think is a fair one, was brought about and sent to me by someone who is very pro-public radio.
John, Mike Otten, info dude, and I think he's got the wrong name in here. Weren't you talking about that lady's name? Wasn't it Ashley, the lady you were talking about, the Democrat lady?
No, her name is Chelsea Rodriguez.
Chelsea, okay. John, I said this is from Info Dude. I thought John was going to say that his fantasy was her and Andy getting caught on the KC kiss cam. Does that make any sense to you?
Oh, see, that's topical. I know where Info Dude's going with that. He's watching the pop culture news.
Okay. Is it time for us to move on, John?
It's time for my favorite jingle, which is coming up in B Block, which is it's time for Brad's top three. Ooh, I'm doing the gritty, Brad.
Can you do the Dougie, though? I want to see you do the Dougie.
Oh, no, but I could see. Who was the hot chick that came to prominence by doing Kate Upton.
Yes. Okay. B Block is up next, and I have an amazing top three.